Not on the field, court, or ice. You are on the couch. From DG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall, delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from a hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am. Through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your weekly DMV sports update. And I am your host, C-Wall, checking in as I love doing every once in a while. It's like, well, basically every week, to give you all the latest and greatest information on the highlights of what is happening in the Washington metropolitan area in sports. We have made it to the end of the season for the weekly DMV sports update. I am excited because I feel like I'm going to get a break, but not really, because it's still always so much going on. And you all have been hanging in here with me the whole entire time, watching the show, giving your questions and comments, and all of your great commentary. And before we get into everything, this is a reminder that this is a live Bowie television recording. So your comments and questions have a chance to get up on the Tizoob. So keep the comments and questions rolling, you all. The show can be found on Comcast Xfinity, Channel 77, and Verizon Fios, Channel 11, every single day from 1:30 to 2:30. So if you missed the live recording, you can always catch it online as well, but you can definitely catch it on TV. I sincerely hope you all are sharing this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends for this episode, every single episode, honestly, you all, because there's a lot to discuss. I see Damon has checked in, Cameron Mingo, Eric Jessup, John Adams. This season finale will certainly be heavy on the Wizards and the Commanders. Okay, we already know why with the Wizards. So check in, Wizards fans. Check in. And Commanders fans, you absolutely want to make sure you're checked in. So make sure you're hitting that love button and dropping a fire emoji, because there is absolutely a lot to discuss. Are you all ready? Love button, fire emoji to let me know you're ready to dig in, because this is how we're rolling to close out this season. All right, you all, Wizards fans, let's just go ahead and get on into this. The big breaking news for this week.
Delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from a hometown perspective.
And what was the goal for this season? I know you've mentioned words like you all are disappointed, hurt to be sitting here talking with us today because the season is now over. So what was the goal for this season?
Well, as I mentioned several times, the playoffs, and at least to get the postseason and get that opportunity to get that taste and get moving forward. I think that we didn't run from that. I don't think we sure didn't let down the prognosticators, right? We ran exactly where we were. So our internal goals were much higher than what people thought of this team, and they should be. You always want to be better than people think.
So I asked Tommy those questions because, at this point, okay, the season is over. What's your plan going forward? What are you looking for in the next player? But the question around, so what was the goal? Yeah, he had said a couple times, making the playoffs. But in my mind, I'm thinking, what is that enough? And if it is, now you're going on. Now this is second year in a row that you didn't meet the goal. If the goal is to make the playoffs. So if the goal is to make the playoffs and you've not made it again. And if it's not the playoffs, not the play-in, so it's to make the playoffs, then what's going to change? Because then this is 2 years in a row that you have not done that. We'll see what happens, right?
My name's C-World, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you're not on the field.
So we posted that reel, right? Because it said at the end, we just discussed this on the show last week, which was I asked Tommy very directly, what was the goal? He said to make the playoffs. And I shared with you all just last week, okay, well, that's 2 years of not making the playoffs. What's going to change? And what changed is Ted Leonsis was paying attention after all and relieved Tommy Sheppard of his duties as the general manager and president of the Washington Wizards. In his statement, owner Leonsis says failure to make the playoffs the last 2 seasons was very disappointing to our organization and our fans. A search for new leadership will begin immediately for an executive from outside the organization. I would like to thank Tommy for his dedication to the Wizards organization and wish him the best in his future endeavors. This is why I say we're going to always ensure we get all of the good content to you all as quickly as possible. And I see you all are already showing Mama Waller some love. She's out and about, but you know she's going to check in on the show as well because she wants to be in the know of what all went down. Here's the reality. As we've been talking about, as I shared last week, something needed to change. Here was the thing. I don't know if you all were like me. I think Cameron Mingo has already shared that his one word is surprised. I was surprised. I have to admit, I was surprised. I did not get any indication, and I've shared this with some folks that there was no indication, at least on Monday, April the 10th, for Wizards end of season media availabilities, that Tommy was going to be let go, right? I mean, maybe he wouldn't know at that time anyway. Here's the interesting thing, because I also just put out an article on SI.com Inside the Wizards that said maybe Ted cares about the Wizards after all, as I just mentioned a moment ago, because we know that the notion and the feeling is that Ted pays more attention to one of his teams than he does the other team. Now, here's what's interesting. The Caps regular season was over later in the week, right? Head coach Peter Laviolette in the Washington Capitals went their separate ways. It was almost like clockwork next day. So with that, it was like, okay, all right, still nothing from the Wizards, but they sure did ensure that the Caps was tended to almost immediately. And that's what happened. So for this to transpire, almost, a week and a couple of days, I said, wow, Ted was really thinking about this. And it must have really gotten under his skin that for the first time, I believe in over a decade, both the Wizards and the Caps have missed the postseason. I said, this must have really gotten under his skin. He must have been really upset about this. So Tommy's gone. As I saw Eric Jessup's comment come up about outside the organization, here's the reality. We're just talking about the last 2 years, right? With Tommy and as the president and general manager of the Wizards not making the playoffs, but Tommy's been with the organization for 20 years, right? We all know the story. He worked for Ernie Grunfeld. When Ernie Grunfeld was relieved of his duties, Tommy Sheppard was given the promotion. I was saying to myself, and I love this comment here from John Adams, because we were just talking about this. We were talking about the idea of tanking as a strategy. And I'm telling people, no, the Wizards aren't tanking. That's not what y'all are watching. They're just losing. They're not tanking, they're losing. And all of those things. And to John's comment, you look at teams like Oklahoma City and absolutely Sacramento and others. We've seen the Knicks make a comeback. There's so many teams that we can refer to and think about and say, okay, hello, what's going on in Washington that this team just cannot consistently be a staple and a threat in the Eastern Conference and just a always automatic, they're going to make the playoffs every year. The recurring theme of playing a pair, big dollars, and not getting championship level wins out of it is consistently a theme in terms of how money is dispersed and how it's given, on top of the consistent, not necessarily, it's drafting and then watching players that you drafted and traded away be successful in the postseason while your team is sitting at home. Now, while I'm surprised, I'm not saying it wasn't warranted. I just was shocked that Ted actually did something like that. I was like, whoa, okay. Oh. And as my colleague and staff writer Inside the Wizards, Karita Park, said in her article, Ted Leonsis shook the table with this one, because I don't think any of us saw that one coming. Not to say it's not a possibility, just didn't see it happening. Ted is paying attention, and that's a good thing. But now there's more questions, right? The new president and GM, how, will they be two separate roles? Will they be the same role? Just what all happens now? And seeing teams that have a long time been up and down or consistently down, now having a strong force and reputation and presence in the NBA postseason. Ted Leonsis must have said, I've had enough. They're not going to leave us out of this party another year, and I'm tired of it. So there's that. There is that. So more to come. And you know what? Make sure you are locked in on Inside the Wizards on Facebook and on Twitter. Make sure you bookmark si.com, Inside the Wizards, because we're going to be tracking this. No, there won't be shows, but we will consistently be sharing short clips and videos and reels to ensure that you all are getting all of the latest and greatest information, and that you're still hearing from me on what's all is going on in the area. Okay, but what about a wow? And because of what happened with Ted Leonsis letting Tommy go, I got to bring this back. For a moment. And that is Winners of the Dole moment in DC Sports. I couldn't believe it. I said, wait a minute. What? Wait, huh? Really? And then the press release dropped in my inbox. I said, well, all right. Wow. Here we are. So let's move on. Commanders fans, check in. Hit that love button. Hit the love button. Drop a fire emoji. Make sure you are sharing this show. The remainder of this is for Commanders, because I was in Ashburn today for the pre-draft press conference. And come on, Commanders fans, let's chat, because it's a lot, and we're gonna jump right on in. While you're hitting the love button, while you're tagging your fellow favorite Commanders fans and sharing this show, let's jump right on in where the question started. We're going to do this similar. You know how we did it before on the Coaching from the Couch, watching the Commanders update. We show a clip from the press conference, and then we discuss. Please drop any questions that you have in the chat. I will try to get to as many of them as possible. But for the remainder of the show, Commanders fans, you get your wish. And that is, we're going to focus on the Commanders. So up first in the press conference, JP Finlay of NBC Sports Washington kicked us off with all of the questions.
How do you balance positional importance? Because it's clear in the NFL what positions matter most versus best player available, particularly in the first round.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a process that we always talk about in the personnel department. It's important to address those needs and to have key players at spots that are value spots. But you gotta have a balanced team. You gotta have a deep team and a balanced team across the board, and that's what our focus is. What the coach said, I thought in free agency, we added some guys that some starters from other teams, two offensive line starters from very good teams, from playoff teams. Added a linebacker, quality player there. Added Jacoby. So we did some things in free agency that we think will be very beneficial going into our draft. And I feel like we have the ability to go anywhere in this draft.
For both of you, with regards, you mentioned the offensive line. You did obviously add a couple of pieces, including Andrew Wiley, who was a tackle last year, but he has played guard experience. With the way the board kind of looks like there could be some tackles there in the first round, would that preclude you from taking a tackle? Could you move him inside, or do you view him as the right tackle kind of moving forward?
The great thing about Andrew and Nick and Trenton actually is their position flexibility and versatility. Trenton's played pretty much everywhere except center. Andrew's played guard and tackle, and then Nick has played center and guard. So we have the flexibility there to go anywhere in the draft, add somebody, and then put the pieces where the pieces line up. And
a non-draft topic, but connects with regards to Chase Young. Have you guys made a decision yet, whether you're going to tell us or not, about the fifth-year option?
No, we'll wait till May 2nd.
To make a decision or to announce something?
Well, that's what we have. We have till May 2nd.
Okay, thanks.
So, sounds like the Commanders are very happy with what they've done in free agency so far. And based on that, drop in the chat, how do you rate the Commanders so far in free agency? It's clear between Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera, they are pleased with the pickups that they've had so far in free agency. They feel like it's almost like the world is your oyster. It could depend on a variety of things. Who we pick in the draft at 16. Now, I see this question has come in and I want to address it, and some more detail is going to be shared. So I want to get to the other videos. First, they're not going to tell us who they draft. Second, they're not going to tell us whether they're going to trade up or down. But I will share with you that if you're listening, they're going to share some key elements of what goes into helping them decide what they're going to do. So I want to share that. I also think it is important to note in terms of who is Mayhew going to draft at 16. I think it's captured in these videos, but when it comes down to who the decision maker is, it is absolutely Ron Rivera. Moving on to some more of the press conference.
In regards to the quarterback, you've talked a lot about how much you like Sam Howell and all that, and you left it open in the first round for possibility, but also bringing Hendon Hooker in to look at him. What does that signal anything about Sam and anything? What did that say, and why go through all that?
Because you never know. I mean, situations, circumstances may dictate something else, but for the most part, we feel very comfortable going into this draft in terms of what our needs are. I think we put ourselves in good position because of the success we had. We feel we had in free agency. As far as quarterback position goes, we feel very comfortable with the guys we have. I mean, if you think about it, we had a young guy in Sam that, coming out at one point was rated very high. We were fortunate, we believe, to get him where we got. We get Jacoby Brissett coming off of, arguably one of his better years as a player. And it's one of those things. It's funny because typically a lot of times you get veteran quarterbacks, they're coming off of tough times. So we feel good about what we did there as well. And we'll see what happens.
And then when you look at the draft and what you guys may want high up versus how the draft stacks up, does it feel like it fits what you guys really need and are looking for?
Again, free agency set us up for the draft. We have the flexibility to go anywhere in the first round, and I think that's a credit to our coach department, to our coaching staff who also evaluated a bunch of those players. I think we're set up in really good shape.
So again, as I've already mentioned, this staff is really happy about the moves that they've made so far in free agency. So that's a good thing that they feel positive about that. Going to move on because there's so much more that I'm wondering if you all are catching some of these nuggets that are being dropped. Let's continue on.
Does that make this process more difficult? Does it make it easier?
I think it makes it, pretty much what it is. It's going to happen, what happens in front of us all the way up to the 11th pick. Because, we have obviously what we want to do is put a group of guys up there and say, okay, now these are the 5 guys that we see coming to us. What's going to happen in the next 5 picks? So we're going to have to react to what happens. Is it easy? It could be, depending on what happens in front. I mean, and that's the truth of it, Nikki. We're at a point where we have to react to what's in front of us first.
And then separately, the news of a tentative agreement with Josh Harris's group to purchase the Commanders. What was your reaction when you heard that news? What is your reaction in trying to prepare for the draft while also kind of hearing all this in the background?
Well, I mean, as far as what's going on with the sale, that's not a question for us. How do we react to it? Well, until it's done, there's really not much to say. And so we're going to stick to what we've done in terms of our preparation. We're going to stick to the plan that we had talked about back in February as a group, sitting down with Marty, with Rob and, and Eric, pretty much our upper personnel department, and just talking about what we wanted to do and what we needed to do going forward. I made a comment earlier about being able to roster build, and just to be clear about it, it's because of the situation we're in with the young quarterback now. We were able to go out and do a lot of things in free agency and positive things. As we talked about, we were able to get 3 starters off of 3 playoff teams, and that feels pretty good, especially with the positions we got in that. So we feel very confident, very comfortable going forward.
Interesting. It was mentioned a couple times by Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera. They have in free agency picked up 3 starters from 3 playoff teams. They continue to talk about that again, continuing to just allude to the fact that they're really happy with where they landed in free agency and who they've picked up. If you have just tuned in, welcome to Culture from the Couch. This is your weekly DMV sports update. Right now, we are going down the list of all of the happenings and things that kind of went on in the conversations that were had at the Commanders pre-draft press conference earlier today. Hit the love button, drop a fire emoji, share it with your favorite Commanders fans, because the rest of this show for the next 6 or 7 minutes or so is all Commanders talk for the rest of it. Drop any questions that you all may have, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the press conference.
Can help you sort of assess of what your needs will be and excites you about the upcoming draft?
Well, I think a big part of it is just seeing the guys that have come back and get an opportunity to talk with them. I mean, right now we the coaches aren't doing any football with them other than the meeting time. And so we kind of rely on the interaction you have, whether it's at breakfast or lunch, or when you're just visiting with them. I mean, I try to put myself in the hallway so they got no opportunity other than to say hi to me and talk a little bit. So, but when you talk to them, you listen to them, and just see how they're feeling about things, I feel comfortable with our guys.
And then Martin, there's a lot of conversation this time of year about floors and ceilings with specific prospects. If you get on the clock and there's 2 guys and one's got maybe the higher floor but maybe not as much potential in your evaluation, but then other guys that maybe the lower floor this year but a higher potential for the future, do you have a mechanism to kind of decide which one of those trumps the other?
Yes, I will look at coach and ask him which one he wants.
And that is exactly what will happen. And I definitely had to smile because Martin has told everybody, this is how this goes. Yes, they do the evaluation. They go through the entire process. But as he said, when it comes down to make the decision, he's going to look at head coach Ron Rivera to see which one he wants. So everyone is really clear. Here's some other things in the interest of time that I wanted to share that just takeaways. Coach Rivera and Martin Mayhew made it very clear that they've always had full autonomy on what they do in terms of the decisions that are made with the draft. right? We all know in years past and with previous coaching regimes here in Washington, that has not always been the case. It is the case with head coach Ron Rivera and staff. It has been the case since he's been here. He makes that very clear. And it was a great question. It was a good thought to come up because with other organizations, and as I mentioned previously here in Washington, what would happen is you got to talk to the owner. You got to say, hey, here's what we're thinking. Here's the plan. But in recent years, since head coach Ron Rivera has been in his role, that's not the case. So right now, how they are operating without having an actual owner per se in solid place right now is they're moving along as they had planned to move along. Now, if you recall in a previous episode way back in February, because that seems like it was so long ago, I shared with you all, and head coach Ron Rivera shared with, because he shared with the media, that they were going to be meeting with the Snyders to talk about the offseason. And that has been that. So maybe they talked about it then, who knows? But right now, they have been making the decisions, between Martin and Coach Rivera, and that's that. Some more conversations came up, and questions came up around the ownership. And as I shared with you all in one of the clips, they don't have anything to say about that. And here's the reality. Even if they did have something to say about it, they can't. They can't share that. So I think I echo everyone when I say everyone will be glad when it is over, right? And when it's done and it's finalized and everybody can just start focusing on football when it comes time for the NFL season in the Washington metropolitan area. I think everybody is there with that. And that's all they can do. I mean, they're just going to keep working and keep moving along. I saw while we were checking out Coach Rivera's Chevelle outside, I saw Cole Turner and I saw Antonio Gibson. And let me just say this. I was like, wait a second. I was just here. And Jay, I was there. And he was in a boot and on crutches. And he didn't look like he felt all that well. But today, on this nice 85-degree weather day, no crutches, no boot, he was walking faster than me. I said, well, how we get here? He ended up walking faster than me. That happens, okay? That happens. So AG appears to be doing quite well. So I wanted to share those other tidbits with you all. Are there any more questions? Because before I sign off for the season finale, let me just say again, thank you all so much for tuning in, sharing the show, giving your comments. I hope you've had as much fun as I have doing this with you all each and every single week and checking in on all the content. Make sure you are following Bowie TV Sports on Instagram and on Twitter, Seawall Sports and Entertainment everywhere, because that's at this point we're everywhere. Make sure you go to www.seawallse.com to sign up on the email list. The content will keep coming. I was laughing today with David Harrison, and I said, you know what, David, I don't even, because, his shows go all year. I said, I'm taking a break. I'm not coming back until August. And he was like, you're going to still do a show. Don't say that. What I'm going to do is we're going to still give you all reels and content. Sign up for the email list, but I'm going to seriously take a show break. Bowie TV and Seawall is not taking a break because that's just not how that works. But we're gonna keep the content rolling. With that being said, all next week for the most part, I will be in Ashburn. And then for the draft, Everyone can say, you going to Kansas City? Nope, that's not how that works with us, not with the Commanders media, because we meet with Coach Rivera and Martin Mayhew and Eric Stokes at the end of each round. So I'll be in Ashburn. I'll be in beautiful, luxurious Ashburn, Virginia, not in Kansas City for the draft. I'm going to have a draft show Monday, May 1st. A Commanders draft recap show at 8 p.m. Mark your calendars, because I will certainly have, and I'm smiling, I will certainly have some of my great colleagues joining me throughout that evening to pop on and tell me exactly what they think about how the Commanders did in the draft. As I share with you all, there's a lot going on, you all. The media can go to rookie minicamp. I'll be there. We'll be at OTAs. We'll be at veteran minicamp. It's a lot to talk about. Everyone thinks I'm going to hurry up and get on, once it's decided whether or not they pick up Chase Young's fifth option. Listen, I'm going to try to do my best to just give you all content and short snippets. But the full shows be back in August. But Monday, May 1st, you don't want to miss that. And I'm smiling because everybody I asked, and I haven't even asked everybody, I looked at the list and I said, I might have taken this too far. The show was going to be too long. But don't tell them I said that. Okay? But at any rate, thank you all. Thank you. This has been an amazing ride. When people ask me how I'm doing now, I just say, hey, every day is an adventure. And I'm glad that you all are a part of it. So much love to you all. I'll be seeing you all around the social media streets. And I better see you all back for the Commanders draft recap show on Monday, May 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You all be blessed. And I'll still be talking to you all again soon.
You're not on the field, court, or ice. You're on the couch. From DG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall. Delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from a hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, picking any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.